welcome to Curitiba in Brazil, the second race of the FIA World Touring Car Championship for 2007. And as the cars are awaiting the start of this second race, the crowd once more basking in late afternoon sunshine. Small rain shower at the end of the last support race between these two FIA touring car counters, but that has all dried away now, and as you can see, no umbrellas, no sign of any further precipitation. And that is good news at this Curitiba track, which has got a very long predominant feature, the long fast front straight, followed by a sinuous right left right chicane, which caused all sorts of problems in the first race start. David Leslie, that was of course a full standing rolling start. This will be a standing start and should hopefully be a little more straightforward.
I think when they arrive at the first corner, instead of all 20 cars being flat out as they arrived at the first corner, you could see them 6 wide going into that very tight corner, which is a right-left chicane, as you said. Then on a standing start, they'll be a little bit more spread out. They're going from a standing start, no carrying, no speed. Previously they came along straight. They were already doing best part of 100 kilometers an hour before the lights turned to green, and they set off for the rest of that extremely long straight to get to the corner. So hopefully this time we will not lose 6 cars as we did previously on the start grid. So those 6 cars we lost were 2 Alfa Romeos, 2 Chevrolets and 2 BMW, 1 BMW, 5 lost, 1 went out later.
Well, we're not going to leave you in suspense. We'll be able to show you that shortly. You can hear the drivers being introduced to the crowd. You saw our Race 1 winner, Jörg Müller, talking to Jaime Puig, the boss of Seat Sport, a minute or two ago. So let's have a look at what happened in the first race of the championship. Well, for the first time ever, a World Touring Car Championship race started with a rolling start. Jörg Müller closest to us on pole position, outstarted initially by Augusto Farfus, but as Farfus tried to defend second place, Andy Priaulx sneaked through. Lead 7 got through, but behind from positions 8 on the grid down to about 14, there was carnage. Cars off all over the place. Nicola Laurini's Chevrolet turned into a spin around the nose of Ivan Muller. He hit Pierre-Yves Courtals. Both Alfa Romeos out on the spot. 2 Chevrolets retired, Laurini and Alemeniu, who got tapped up on the outside. So after the first corner there were further incidents. This is Laurini's view of it in a spin here behind Tom Coronel. There's his teammate Alemeniu, and it was that impact, I'm pretty sure, that put Menu's car out of the race 1 corner later, and Laurini bounced up in the air. Olivier Tielemans, the new boy in the Alfa Romeo camp, was also out, as was his teammate James Thompson. So the race distance elevated from 14 to 16 laps, and after 4 laps behind the safety car, they went away with Jörg Müller getting a huge advantage. Ivan Muller inherited race 2 pole with 8th place as Felix Portiero, who started in 4th, spun out of 8th place with 4 laps remaining. Jörg Müller led as Andy Priaulx closed with Augusto Farfus in 3rd. That was one race. There was another race at the back of the top 8. Ivan Muller with 8th place, pole for race 2 in the reverse top 8 positions. But behind him, Jordi Genet. It was either pass Muller and take pole or start in 9th. Last lap, and Priaulx piling on the pressure, desperately trying to take the lead from Jörg Müller, but with just 1 lap remaining, it was a thankless task. Charlie Lamb from the Schnitzer team watched his men come home 1st and 3rd in a BMW white and blue wash of the podium. 4th place, Gabriele Tarquini's Seat, only just out of the final corner as they crossed the line. So it was a demanding but demonstrative victory for the BMW drivers. And as you can see, Priaulx with Muller and Farfus on the podium. The top independent was Pierre-Yves Courtals.
Tô contando com a galera de Curitiba pra gente fechar outro agito daquele, hein?
On the grid, Alex Zanardi, the man who finished in the middle of the top 8, starts again in the middle of the top 8 with Ivan Muller on pole position. Alex Zanardi will start in 2nd place. There's the sort of grin you rarely see from a touring car driver unless they're on the top step of the podium. Tom Coronel lines up in third place. No longer, remember, an independent driver. Coronel will race as a full factory contender, although he's not actually a factory driver as such. He will be challenging for the overall World Touring Car crown. Rob Huff starts in fourth place in his Chevrolet. His was the best of the Chevrolets in race one. And there you can see the reigning World Touring Car champion, Andy Priaulx, will start in seventh place on the grid, having finished second in the first heat. Well, it's unusual to have the start of a race as one of the flyaways. Certainly the World Touring Car Championship has never done that so far, but they thoroughly enjoyed themselves in Curitiba last year. In the second year back, the warm welcome has been extended even further. An hour south or so by aeroplane from Sao Paulo. It's Brazil's third circuit after Rio and, of course, Interlagos. And it's the home track for Augusto Farfus. And it's one that he would certainly hope to win on. Well, Tom Coronel loves everywhere that there's good-looking girls and entertainment, but Augusto Farfus has certainly been the media's darling here. Everybody wants a piece of the action.
Minha vida, minha base, onde eu cresci, onde eu nasci.
A 23-year-old says, this is my life, this is where I grew up, where my family lives, where I was born. It's where I come on my holiday. So even though for the last 8 years I've been racing in Europe, I've lived out of Brazil, Curitiba's always where my heart is. There are lots of beautiful places around the world, a lot of places that I've been to, I've been really struck by, but Curitiba will never leave me. The Seat team with 4 drivers in their factory lineup here, including Frenchman Yvan Muller. Very nice to start the season in Brazil in March. It's still late summer here, so the weather's much nicer than at this time in Europe. Well, obviously he's never been to England. 22-year-old Olivier Tielemans is a newcomer to the championship with the Alfa Romeo squad, and it's
having a World Championship racing cars, and it's incredible to be here in Curitiba, Brazil. Everything is nice. Yeah, it's nice to be here.
Nice to be in Curitiba, nice too if you have your home, your family all supporting you, and the championship looks like being an electrifying one right from the start. David, the first race certainly produced an expected win for BMW after their dominance of qualifying. We pretty much expected them to be one of their top 4 drivers on the grid to be on pole position and then take victory. Jörg Müller managed to do that despite the safety car period. He handled everything with aplomb. But now from 8th position, the cars will have a little bit of a tougher job working their way through the field to the front, but it's certainly not impossible. We have seen 8th place to first place victories during the course of last year and the year before.
Yeah, we have, and it's quite easy for them to do. They just need someone to make a mistake in front of them, and of course they've got some front-wheel drive cars in front of them, so I would think somebody like Augusto Farfus has got Hoff in front of him directly, so he could be past him and Tom Coronel in third into the first corner, so it'd be quite easy, I would think, for the BMWs again to be right at the very front of this when the race starts.
And the start. Rob Huff for Chevrolet lining up in 4th place. Don't forget Rob Huff, a winner for the Chevrolet team last year, so was Alain Menu. Huff in 4th place on the grid, but the other 2 Chevrolets, well, Alain Menu will start. He'll be on row 9, Nicola Larini on row 8. Of course, both of them out before even 1 lap was completed of race 1. James Thompson, we think, should also take the start, and Olivier Tielemans as well. They are at least on the grid, so whether the cars are completely fixed or not remains to be seen. Despite the fact, David Leslie, that there are 2 hours now between the end of race 1 and the beginning of race 2, still only a 15-minute period to fix the cars, which means that if there is substantial damage, the teams might have a fair while to look at it, but actually doing the work is still very restricted indeed. Now, why?
Well, yes, they can look at it, but only from a distance. When the cars finish the race, they go into a place called Parc Fermé. Basically, it's a nice, safe place where all the cars have been parked up, no one can touch them. Big wire fence around it usually, security man on the gate saying, no, you can't get anywhere near it. It does give them mechanics time to think about what they're going to do, get some suspension parts ready, whatever it may be, to put the whole thing back together. But still only 15 minutes, same as last year. 15 minutes is all they're allowed to work on the cars. They get their cars back 5 minutes before they're allowed to start work on them. So 5 minutes before they're allowed, they can get the cars from Parc Fermé. Now that's okay for the cars that got 4 wheels on them, because you just wheel them along the pit lane to where you want to be, and it's sitting there waiting ready to start. Those guys out there, and there are 3 or 4 of them, they've only got 3 wheels on their cars. So that could be a problem, wheeling it down the pit lane with a wheel missing to be able to start work on it. So some of them will be struggling to get their cars ready in time.
Well, of course, if the car can make it back into the pits during the race, as James Thompson's did, but Olivier Tielemans didn't, then they have the whole of the race in which they can actually work on it in the pit lane. But if it then has to be delivered by flatbed, hopefully it'll get dropped off at the garage, you know, swept up into a bin somewhere, maybe, if it's really in a mess. But it still puts a lot of pressure on the teams to give a driver a second chance. And in effect, because of the rolling start, there were no guilty parties in the first corner shunt. It was just innocents being knocked out left, right and centre. So nobody was really to blame for that, but a lot of people paid the price. Here you can see Ivan Muller, who was right in the middle of it, but on the inside line on the driver's right, which means that he was least likely to get punted off. And in fact, several drivers went off outside and around him. But the Frenchman who started last season so well, his first in the World Touring Car Championship, is on pole here and has at least a chance, maybe if not a win. Certainly he's got a good chance of a podium here, but I don't know, there might just be a chance that he might win this race still.
You've got to look at what happened last year. Andy Priaulx worked the system to its best. If he didn't qualify well, he would try and finish 8th. If he finished 8th, he would start on pole for next race, and he would try and win the next race. So generally his point scoring was 1 win and 1 8th place, and he went through the season like that, and he managed to win the championship like that. Now that I'm sure that is in the mind of Ivan Muller, sitting there in pole position at the moment. Even if he doesn't win, what he needs to do is score good points, because at the end of the year there will still be quite a large number of people aiming to go into the championship final round with a chance of winning this World Championship.
So the Frenchman leads a long line of Seats there, 1, 2, 3 of them on rows 1, 2 and 3 of the grid, ahead of the BMWs of Priaulx and Muller, our top 2 in race 1. Then more Seats, Genet, the independent, top independent, Pierre-Yves Courtals, new driver Michel Jourdain from Mexico, ahead of independent Emmett O'Brien, another new boy Sergio Hernandez, another new driver Felix Portiero, and then Larini and Menu in their rather damaged Chevrolets, with possibly Thompson and Tielemans also, and James Thompson. So cars sweeping around Curitiba to come to the grid, this time for a standing start. The full Grand Prix style start for race 2 of the FIA World Touring Car Championship, and bad news for Alain Menu. He's had 1 lap round onto the dummy grid to see whether the car was properly fixed or not, and he's clearly got a problem with it. So he's gone straight into the pit lane. It might be something they can adjust to allow him to take the start from the pit lane. Let's face it, he was only 1 row from the back anyway, and Felix Portiero going in as well, the new Spanish kid in the BMW Italy-Spain outfit, Roberto Ravaglia's team. But at the front of the field, Ivan Muller on pole, Alex Zanardi, the white BMW second, orange Seat, Tom Coronel, blue Chevrolet, Rob Huff, Gabriele Tarquini, the second of the yellow and blue Seats, then 3 BMWs, Jörg Muller, I beg your pardon, Jörg Muller ahead at the back, ahead of him Farfus and Priaulx. So let's see how the BMWs start. Watch Ivan Muller on pole on the right, away he goes, very good start from him. Now we did hear Jörg Muller suggest, or in fact Farfus suggest, that maybe the front wheel drive cars would not be at a disadvantage because it's very low grip, this front straight, and it seems to be the case. Look at Zanardi, he's trying to fight off Rob Huff and he can't. Oh, and another first corner collision. Huff got hooked up around the nose of Zanardi's car, and what was nearly second place has ended in a left front puncture, and he's at the back of the field. There goes James Thompson's Alfa Romeo. He's already picked up half a dozen positions, so it's Ivan Muller that leads. Second place already is Augusto Farfus. He was really ready for that start, David. That's electrifying.
That's fantastic from where he was on the grid to come through. Good start from him, and those 2 taking themselves out on the first corner. It was a real coming together between Zanardi and Rob Huff. They were just trying, both of them, trying to get into that first corner on the inside together.
Well, Zanardi down in 5th position. He's the next of the Alfa Romeos behind Tom Coronel, but Coronel's also been passed by Gabriele Tarquini, so Tarquini jumped a row, and there is our race leader, Ivan Muller. You saw the onboard pictures from Nicola Larini's Chevrolet from the tail of the field, frankly, row 8. straight and showed just how busy it was. But great starting by Farfus, so intent on watching the run into the first corner by the leaders, didn't see how he found that hole. But here's a replay. He was right behind the battle for second already into the braking area. Huff goes around the outside, tries to find a little bit of room, and his left rear hits the right front of Zanardi, and well, Huff goes around. Zanardi just about continued. Huff came a little bit to his left, perhaps to give himself a touch more turning space, David, and that's where the contact came in.
It was almost identical to the what happened in the first race. Two cars into the first corner, one up the inside, two of them touched, one got spun round in front of the other one, but this time there was nobody else at the front for them to hit, and he was just out there on his own.
Well, Ivan Muller was well ahead. He was sweeping way out to the driver's left to stay on line. Battle here, that's Prio holding off Jörg Muller. No, it's not, it's Zanardi trying to hold off Jörg Muller. Prio just in front of them. So there is Prio. He is now behind Coronel. Zanardi's going backwards fast. So there is a problem with the Italian's car, and I would imagine that is probably bent front suspension. His steering is probably all whacked out of line, and it's not turning in the way that it should do. Now, he may be able to adapt as Emmett O'Brien gets tagged round by I think Sergio Hernandez, and that's his race over in the gravel probably. Ivan Muller still leads. Now, I said this might be Muller's chance to win, and I said Farfus would really need to work hard to get a chance to win in race 2. But
Farfus looks as though he's got a very good chance indeed. He's the one person that's right up there, and he's sandwiched between the two Seats, and I think that they've got a real good opportunity here for Farfus to win at his home country.
Getting closer, getting closer, getting closer. It's such a long straight here. It's very nearly a full kilometre. He pulls out of the slipstream. That's Seat's problem. Top ends, they give away such a big toe because of that hatchback, and Farfus just sucked up behind Ivan Muller, pulled out and calmly outbraked him again. The front engine rear-wheel drive BMW, just a fraction better balanced under braking. Absolutely copybook stuff. Now let's count 1, 2, 3 Seats and Andy Prio between him and Jörg Muller, so he's got to bank on those 3 Seats not taking each other off and staying between him and the other 2 BMWs, but that is his cushion.
I think it'd be very difficult for that to stay for the rest of these laps, or another 11 laps basically. So I would think Andy Prio will be wanting to get past Tom Cornell. The problem he has is he's got Jörg Muller right behind him, and Jörg wants past Andy, so they've got their own battle as well as trying to get past the Seats in front. Once you get past Tom Cornell, he's got the 2 works cars to get past here, which is where are we? Tarquini and Ivan Muller.
Our Brazilian director currently loving these shots as his local hero takes the lead, and why not? So out they come at the end of lap 3. Augusto Farfus with the better part of a second, at least 3/4 of a second over Ivan Muller. Gabriele Tarquini in third. It's 0.9, and again Coronel desperately trying to hold off Prio, and this is not Coronel the independent who'll get out of the way. This is Coronel who wants the World Touring Car Championship title this year just as much as every other driver in the top 8, 10, 12, 15. This is not playing safe for independence points. Prio got a little held up there. Now he's got Jörg Muller centimetres from his back bumper, and Muller will try for a pass here if anything shows its head as an opportunity.
That's right, and we've seen in past years Tom Cornell would always move out of the way and let the works guys go because he wanted the independent points. He's not in the independent championship this year. That orange car is going for overall points. He has to, because he's not allowed it to be in independence, so he's not giving in. Previously, I'm sure, I know he would just simply have moved out of the way and would have let that BMW through. Not this year. This year, he's out there to show the rest of the world he's as good as anybody else.
Look at Jörg Muller in the mirror on Prio's car. Even as you're watching Tom Coronel getting a little sideways in front of Andy, you could see Muller lancing up alongside. Here's what it looked like from the outside. Andy just fractionally held up Coronel a little later, a little slower into the corner, a little later on the gas perhaps, and the rear end of his car is flapping a little after a brush, but Muller got right up close again. Here we go, onto the straight. Now Muller is better placed to attack Prio than Prio is to attack Coronel, and Muller will get a tow from Coronel and Prio. Expect those cars to go 3 wide. Here we go, Coronel defending on the inside. It's going to make him very slow into the chicane, and Muller might get a chance to have a run on Prio on the exit, David, as well. He's all over him again, and Zanardi has not dropped right off. Zanardi's in there as well, looking for more points.
There's an opportunity now. The opportunity is there for Andy to be beside. He's got it. He's now beside Tom Coronel, and the BMWs are following through one after the other, and I think Tom could be hung out to dry.
Absolutely, that is just like being on the outside line in the NASCAR Cup race. Coronel here defending hard, but as you said, it was just a solid wall of white coming alongside him, and there was no way he was going to break in with even a short Seat into any of the gaps that were in there, not unless he parked it nose in. So Prio goes by, Jörg Muller goes by, Zanardi goes by, and Coronel lost 3 places to that one long 12-wheeled BMW as it went by. Now they're free of Coronel. How many laps before they catch the 2 in front? I don't think it's going to be that long.
I think Andy really has got, he's now in 4th place, and you can see an opportunity here. So he's really going to want to be past those 2 Seats. If he got another second out of the 2 second places, is a fantastic point scoring in a World Championship in World Touring cars, because generally you get 1 good result, 1 poor result. So to have 2 second places, it would be a really terrific weekend, even though Jörg Muller has already had a win.
Change behind Coronel as we watch Prio again defending from Jörg Muller. Luca Rangoni there, the white and blue Pro Team BMWs just past Pierre-Yves Cortels, and there's Tomo. And is that Rob Huff? I bet it was Rob Huff he was battling with, and he hangs on. No, I think it was Larini, just in front of Nicola Larini. Now skated across the gravel. If he'd done that in qualifying like Ivan Muller had, he would have been penalised, but in racing surely nobody's going to penalise you for having a go. James Thompson hangs on, but look at the front of that Alfa Romeo. That's had a lot of work.
He did a lot of hanging on there, because he went off with a lot of opposite lock on through a gravel trap, kept a foot hard into it, brought it out the other side, still in front of the Chevrolet that touched him on the way into the corner.
That's what comes to having a dad who's a rally driver. Piggy Thompson, his dad, very well-known English rally driver, and James has had a few rallies in the past, but probably not in such an unsuitable car for the loose as the Alfa Romeo is. But yeah, he hung on, just got the angle right, off the brakes when the wheels were pointing in the right direction to stop the slide, and just let it bounce through and hopefully survive the gravel trap. And Larini, of course, was braking a little bit deeper to try and avoid the accident that actually never came his way. So Farfus leads at the end of lap 6 of 14, and behind him the 2 Seats are trying to hang on. He was 0.9 ahead after lap 2. He's 2.1 ahead now after 6 laps. So Farfus is pulling away, and disappointingly for Ivan Muller and Gabriele Tarquini, the other BMWs are going pretty much as fast as Augusto Farfus. Here is our race leader. He's pulling away. Quick flick of the eyes to the mirror, and again you can see that normal road car style gearbox, not a pullback push forward sequential shift that the front wheel drive cars use. The BMWs use a normal road style gearbox.
And you can see Andy Prio here desperately trying to keep Jörg Muller behind him. He knows Jörg wants past him, so he's not only having to concentrate on trying to catch the 2 Seats in front, but he's spending as much time, if not more, watching his rear view mirror to see where Jörg Muller is. Jörg, he's won the first race, he's on cloud 9, he really wants to be up there winning this race, but the problem is getting past another BMW. The 2 of them are reeling in the 2 Seats. Zanardi not quite hanging with them, he's just a little bit further behind.
It's time for Jörg to calm down for 2 or 3 laps to allow Andy and his car to work together to catch these Seats. Once they've got rid of the Seats, or if Prio gets balked by the Seats badly and an opportunity throws itself at his feet, then Jörg's not going to turn his nose up at it. But now is not the time to be attacking Prio. Now is the time for the 2 BMWs to consolidate and attack, because look at that. You saw Tarquini pulling out to have a little look at the back of the car in front of Ivan Muller for second place. He's worried that Muller's not quick enough as well. Down into the corner comes James Thompson. Thompson hanging on desperately ahead of Jordi Genet. So Thompson still with a battle on his hands. You can see the Chevrolet of Nicola Larini has got by him for 10th place, and Tomo now in 11th position. Right behind him, Jordi Genet, Sergio Hernandez, the white and blue car, then Stefano D'Aste, Michel Jourdain and Olivier Tielemans at the back, with Menu, O'Brien and Huff out of the race at the moment with Thompson. Now the car clearly not working as well as it was at the beginning of the race, and certainly not as well as it was at the beginning of race 1. So Thompson with a lot of work on his hands. Ivan Muller, 2nd place. Gabriele Tarquini, 3rd place. And now Andy Priaulx and Jörg Muller have caught them. The gaps between Priaulx and Tarquini are smaller than they have been at any stage throughout the race, and the BMWs now come together. Muller has calmed down. He has seen the overall picture quite clearly. He's seen that 2 BMWs together are quicker than 2 Seats together. Here comes Priaulx. He's going to try and open the door, goes inside Tarquini, and Jörg Muller's got to have a look as well. Now Tarquini's going to be way offline, he's going to be slow. Muller's going to try and put a move in here in the next 2 or 3 corners while Tarquini is trying to regain that momentum, David.
Yeah, Tarquini now is really worried. He knew the BMWs were catching him, there's nothing he could do about it. One of them has got past. What he needs to do is try and stay where he is and keep the 2 of them apart. Now that's good for Andy as well, because that will allow him a little breathing space between himself and Jörg Muller, who is really, along with Augusto Farfus, who's leading the race, his biggest competitors here this weekend. The BMWs very much on the top as far as the manufacturers go. They're going to go away with maximum points, I'm sure, in the Manufacturers' Championship, much to the disgust of Seat. We heard earlier on the Seat boss saying he was a little bit upset the way things were working, but you know, this is only the first of 11 meetings, the second of 22 races. There is a long way to go, and you can see here, this is where Andy Priaulx got past Tarquini. Now he's got Ivan Muller to get past as well.
Well, this was a rive and dive from Priaulx. He came up behind Tarquini with the benefit of the tow, and it was a half chance. He really forced it into a full overtaking opportunity, but he might have sat and waited if he was being a little bit more cautious. He didn't. Now is the time for decision and for a decisive move like that. This is now for 2nd place, same move. Here comes Jörg Muller to go by Tarquini. BMWs, the white cars on the inside, and both successfully pass their Seat rivals under braking at the end of the straight. Both pick up a tow, both pull out and pass. Again, Seat are going to say, give us a weight break. BMW is 15 kilos lighter. They start better than us, they stop better than us. Where are we supposed to be better? Our aerodynamics aren't as good as theirs either. Where's the advantage for Seat in all of this? I can see why Jaime Puig, the Seat Sport boss, is absolutely livid, and he won't be a very happy man flying back to Spain on Monday morning.
When you're looking at that, I mean, these BMWs simply slipstreamed up behind, pulled out, went past, braked, and that was the job done. And you've seen both of them do exactly the same thing to the other 2 Seat drivers. And here we've got another coming together for the... Oh, they
Jordi
didn't like that. Had a real big coming together with Rengoni.
With that's in fact Sergio Hernandez, the ex-Formula 3000 and GP2 driver. So Sergio Hernandez, who last year was racing Lewis Hamilton in GP2, this year getting tangled up across the nose of Jordi Genet. So another Seat with a little bit of a problem there. And that means that Genet has dropped down from 12th place. So Augusto Farfus leads across the line. Ivan Muller in 3rd place, but for how much longer? 3 remain, and it's going to be another BMW 1, 2, 3, and it is going to be the exact reverse of race 1 as Jörg Muller, the race 1 winner, moves up into 3rd. The man who was 3rd in race 1, Augusto Farfus, leads, and Andy Priaulx is in the middle. And David, from what we saw in race 1, it's unlikely, barring errors by the drivers, that that'll change, because as Jörg Muller shows us, the BMWs, while they're better than anything else, are pretty much equal to each other.
Yes, they are. They're very, very equal. We've seen that in the first race. Between the 3 guys at the front, Jörg Muller, Andy Priaulx and Augusto Farfus, there was nothing in it. They were nose to tail for the whole of the 14-lap race. Well, it turned out to be 16 laps in the end because of the safety car, but just absolutely nose to tail, and just see how much quicker they are than the Seats. And the Seats at one point last year were quick in a straight line because they had a bit of a break last year. They were allowed a flat floor underneath the car to try and help their aerodynamics. But whatever advantage race they had last year is long gone. The work that BMW have done over the winter has paid dividends, big dividends, and they are just head and shoulders above the Seats just now. And the Chevrolets, they were right up there in qualifying, they've been right up there in the warm-up. They've had accidents, all three of the drivers. 2 in the first race, 1 in the second race, and those accidents have taken them right out altogether. Yes, Rob Huff scored 4 points in the first race, but unfortunately nothing for the second race.
No, they've flattered really to deceive, haven't they, Chevrolet and Seat and Alfa Romeo. It's just been, well, they've done almost no winter testing, and they were hoping that something might be produced here. It was a good racetrack for them last year. Don't forget, Augusto Farfus claimed pole for Alfa Romeo last year, didn't win the race, but James Thompson here really struggling. Jordi Genet looking down the inside and finding that that door is firmly closed in his face. Stefano D'Aste is the yellow and white BMW behind them, and over the independents. Top independent is again going to be Pierre-Yves Courtals in 9th place at the moment. Oh no, Luca Rangoni, I beg your pardon, in 7th with Ivan Muller. And there is Andy Priaulx. That is a replay from the Frenchman's view of Priaulx going by him several laps ago, as Thompson and Genet battle hard just down for 11th place. Andy Priaulx's car looking very twitchy in front of Jörg Muller. Now, Muller was by 0.2 of a second quicker than Priaulx in race 1 and 0.4 quicker than Farfus in race 1. And that means that in race 2, he should have a slight advantage. Now, he's got the aerodynamic toe as well in his benefit, and Priaulx's getting nothing from Farfus, who is staying well out of this. Muller may just about have enough time here. He's got 2 laps, but Priaulx will have to be very cautious in defence.
It is, Andy's going to make that corner, is he? Ooh,
yes, just shut the door, and that is the benefit of having that left-right-left sequence. If that had just been a right-hander, Muller would have been past. That lockup would have cost Priaulx second place.
He's really having to defend what he's doing, and we've seen, you know, Muller really has got a very quick BMW underneath him, and he's making it count for himself. And Andy really, for the next 2 laps, has got a very big job to keep Muller behind. Jörg Muller really wants to take another good position. Yes, third will be fine. If he takes third, the positions stay the way they are, all 3 of these guys will go away with exactly the same points at the end of the day. Jörg doesn't want that. Jörg wants the second place. He wants to be walking away, leading this championship, not simply being the same as his other teammates in the BMW camp.
It's going to be very tough, isn't it, as the season progresses, really, to choose between any of these drivers. And of course, all 3 of these guys will be laden with a bit of success ballast. Now, where's Muller in the mirrors? Not quite close enough. So they will be just a fraction slower when they go to Zandvoort. And it is somewhere that RBM, that run the BMW Team UK car, have tested a lot. They test on the short circuit. Andy Priaulx had never driven the Grand Prix circuit until the beginning of this year. But that's where they'll be racing round 2 of the championship on the 6th of May. But before then, we've got the final lap here in Curitiba to decide second place. No doubt who's going to win this, and it'll be his first win ever on this Curitiba racing track. He's won plenty of times on the kart track at the same race circuit, but he's never won actually on the racing circuit itself. He's only ever raced here once, Augusto Farfus, and that was in last year's Touring Car Championship for Alfa Romeo. But Muller is looking left to right, and that was a very late lock up there. He just got sideways, showing that even though they're very close and it looks like nothing's going on, this is absolute on the limit driving from both second and third place men.
The one thing they've got to be careful of is they don't take each other off. They did say at the very beginning, race, no team orders, nothing, get on with it, but do not take each other off. And there's Andy with his new sponsorship down the side of the car, the Crown Plaza sponsorship that he's picked up for this year. But second place is where he's aiming for. This is the guy coming into the last corner looking for the winner. Augusto Farfus in his hometown. What more can you ask for? He will be a very happy young man at the end of this.
What a great result for Augusto Farfus. Listen to the crowd rising to their feet as one. A Brazilian winner in Curitiba to round out a fantastic weekend of racing. Round 2 of the World Touring Car Championship 2007 goes to Augusto Farfus. And as David has predicted, we have a 3-way tie at the top of the championship leaderboard. Charlie Lamb with double victories. They desperately want to break a 6-year losing streak of touring car racing. They've beaten by other BMW teams, they've been beaten by Alfa Romeo. They have had enough of coming second. For the last, I don't know how many years, they've raced cars numbered 42 and 43. This year, number 2 and number 3. Enough of the superstition already. They are clearly no longer lucky numbers for the Bavarian team, 42 and 43. Augusto Farfus thanks all that is holy for a fantastic race for him. And it was all done at the start. An astonishing getaway from 6th position on the grid to be 2nd or 3rd rather into the first corner, and then see it all turn around in front of him. He showed us the incident between Huff and Zanardi that allowed him into 2nd place. He passed Ivan Muller without too much drama and then led the race as he wanted to the checkered flag. A great result for Brazil, a great result for the Brazilian as well. And Augusto Farfus, Andy Prio and Jörg Muller will lead the championship to Zandvoort. 4th place with 2 strong points finishes, Gabriele Tarquini. He was 6th in race 2, 5th in race 2 rather, 4th in race 1, so a good result from him. Rob Huff and Tom Coronel will be tied in 5th place in the championship with 4 points apiece. No, they weren't. Ivan Muller will be 5th with 6 points, Zanardi 6th with 5 points, and Huff and Coronel with 4 points. And it will be Luca Rangoni and Pierre-Yves Courtal's joint 1st in the Independence Trophy with a win and a 2nd place apiece. But all the headlines on Monday will be about one man in Brazil. Augusto Farfus wins in the World Touring Car Championship. Race 2 here in Brazil goes to him after a podium finish, and you can see how well a home win perhaps might be appreciated for Tom Coronel in Zandvoort, for Andy Prio in Brands Hatch, for Ivan Muller in Pau, on the streets of Pau by the French fans. There are so many racetracks we go to here where there will be local interest among the drivers and among the teams for the fans to cheer, and if they can come out on top, then they will be greeted in much the same way. David, we said after race 1, a podium finish in his first rear-wheel drive touring car outing, his first weekend with the Schnitzer team, a great start for Farfus, and this I think is really going to make them warm to him even more. He's clearly a very amiable young man, easy to work with. They've already enjoyed having him in the team, and when he can go out like this and produce the goods just as much as an established star like Jörg Muller within their fold, they're going to love him just as much.
Without doubt, he's just done a superb job for them. You know, 2 years ago he came fresh into this championship from single seaters, and he really has taken it like a duck to water, and the move from a front wheel drive to rear wheel drive has been seamless, and he's done an excellent job for BMW. And to come out the same as Andy Prio and Jörg Muller with the same points at the end of the day, with a 1st and a 3rd, gives them 16 points, and you have to say there'll be a lot of celebrations in Brazil, because that's the flag, that's the young man, very, very happy indeed. It doesn't matter about the other two who finished 2nd and 3rd. All that matters here in Curitiba in Brazil is the local man won.
Well, do you know, the only thing about it that's slightly a shame is that he couldn't have done it with Alfa Romeo, who gave him his break and with whom he really learned his trade. But Alfa Romeo just, I guess, don't have the budget this season, or N Technology, who are the team that are running the 156s, don't have the budget to have the sort of retainer that will keep Augusto Farfus out of the clutches of BMW. And certainly the Schnitzer team, when they knew that they were losing Dirk Muller, have replaced him in a very fine manner indeed. And a great start to the season for BMW, for Schnitzer, and of course for BMW Team UK as well, with the reigning champion Andy Prio leading the series. 3-way split, but still leading after the first race weekend. The familiar face of Charlie Lamb smiling as he embraces Augusto Farfus. Sebastian Tiffert there with our camera, waiting to have a quick word with our 2nd race winner. And you can forgive him for being a little overawed, I think. Well, Sebastian will get in there with the microphone as soon as he can.
Augusto, how sweet does this victory taste?
Tastes a very hard winter, a very good job. I just want to say thanks to everybody, Dr. Tyson, which trusted me and gave me this opportunity. Better start than this one, I think is possible. I just want to say thanks to God. Cross my fingers, looking forward for the season. Thanks for BMW, thanks for Schnitzer, for everybody. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Well, David, we were talking about him a couple of days ago, saying that when he first arrived out of Formula 3000 at the Alfa Romeo team, he spoke no English at all, and now he can swear as well as any mechanic. And as you can see, even in the height of emotion, his English is as faultless as his driving. As he said, I can't think of any better start to it myself either. A fantastic race weekend for him and for the Schnitzer team.
I think Schnitzer, having finished second to Batman Pius team with Andy Pri over the last 3 years, really is desperate to win. They've got two very good drivers there, and they've shown this weekend they really mean business. It's going to be that little bit harder for Andy to win a third world championship.
But that is certainly going to be his task for the next few months. Well, with Augusto Farfus, the joint championship leader, ahead of the rest of the field with Jörg Müller and Andy Priaulx, certainly BMW will be feeling very happy, not only with the way they have raced here in Curitiba this weekend, but also the way that they have politicked on the way up to it. And understanding and using the rule book, David Leslie, is as vital a part of racing as understanding and using the tyres.
It is. You've just got to understand absolutely everything about how this whole system works. And there's a big rule book, a very big rule book, and it has to be read and understood. The big part is to understand exactly how it all works, how to get the best out of it. Because next time they started this, the first race, they got 16 brand new tyres to use. It's the first race. Next time when they come back, they've got 12 brand new tyres and 6 tyres left over from this race meeting that they can use at the next race at Zandvoort. And all these little things will make a big difference to how the strategy goes for the future races. But it doesn't matter about the future. All that matters this weekend here in Brazil, in Curitiba, is that the man from Curitiba himself has won the second race. He is going to go away joint leader of the championship.
I think even more important than a driver from Rio or a Paulista or anywhere else, from the Amazon Basin or anywhere else, it is not just a Brazilian driver, it's a Curitiba driver. It could hardly be better if you ask them to. There on the podium as well, Luca Rangoni from the BMW Pro Team outfit. He is our independent winner, and of course BMW will come up again to accept the manufacturer's trophy. Oh, dry shirt this time.
Different colour shirt as well.
Yes, yeah, he's got one of the t-shirts on this time. So a great result, a fantastic result. It's almost like having somebody from Forckham winning in Brands Hatch, isn't it? It's a great result for the fans. Well, next weekend the focus in Brazil might all be on Felipe Massa and whether or not he is going to rule the Ferrari team. But with a week still to go to another FIA World Championship kicking off, the focus in Brazil is all about the World Touring Car Championship on their home soil and a home win for Augusto Farfus. He goes away to Europe, where he has earned his racing spurs as the joint championship leader. All three men on the podium have a share of the championship lead. I wonder what odds you would get on the same three being the championship leaders when we head to Macau. I'm not sure they'd be very long, actually. I think there's a very good chance that these guys will be at or around the front of the field for the rest of the season.
You have to hand it to BMW that, after so many years in touring car racing, and they've been at it longer than most, you know, they are here to win championships. They're not here to finish second. They're not here to get beaten by anybody else. They try very, very hard to get their cars right to the front and win races, win championships, and that's exactly what they've set off. They've been very, very dominant here this weekend, so you have to hand it to them that they're the one that's hit the ground running. They're the one that's scored the big points in the first round of the 22 race championship, so you've got to give it to them. You know, it's up to everybody else now to get their act together and challenge them and try and take that lead position away.
And of course, with Luca Rangoni taking the Independence Trophy win as well, only one Seat driver even had a sniff at the podium all weekend, and that was Pierre-Yves Courtals, who won the Independence Trophy in race 1. The rest of it has all been about BMW.
We noticed this down, the champagne came out.
Schnitzer,
he ran away.
Exit stage left. I don't think I've ever seen somebody quite so fleet on foot off a podium, and with good reason, as they get busy with the fizzy to end this race weekend in Brazil. Augusto Farfus is certainly the man of the moment. So Farfus enjoying this moment, and this is one that will live with him for a long while. The delight of taking pole position last year, the delight when he thought he had pole this year, which was soon extinguished by teammate Jörg Müller, and then perhaps on the podium in race 1, thinking what might have been. He really made everything work for him in race 2. He earned it. He was certainly not gifted the win in any way, shape or form, and Augusto Farfus has done a great job to claim that second race victory. Don't forget, he started 6th position, and so he worked his way best through the traffic. It took Andy Prieur and Jörg Müller some while to catch him, and the BMWs again, as David has pointed out, starting well, running well, little lighter in weight as well. We're going to hang on here for the interviews after the race, but a few more trophies to be presented to our drivers on the podium, and this is really what it was all about coming to Brazil. Jörg Müller, I don't think I've ever seen him quite so refreshed and relaxed before the start of a season. He's always a happy and smiling guy unless things have gone disastrously wrong, but I think perhaps he feels that this year more than ever he's really got a point to prove. Well, the trophy with the Curitiba circuit map on it, I'm sure will take pride of place. I'm pretty certain that won't be travelling to Europe. That'll go straight onto the family mantelpiece, as Augusto Farfus, unlike everybody else who'll be staying in hotels, goes back home to mum and dad's tonight for the final time before he heads off. Testing begins next week for the European season, and of course that kicks off on the 6th of May at Zandvoort in the Netherlands. That's a late change, or a relatively late change to the calendar. There are a couple of others that we need to tell you about, of course, if you haven't been watching the internet recently. Sweden, Anderstorp circuit in July takes over where Istanbul was penciled in to be, so that is another change, and there are some interesting races coming up. We've got Zandvoort, of course, that the circus has never visited before. They go to not Magny-Cours this year to France, but to race on the streets of Po. Then they're going to the streets of Portugal, to the city of Porto as well, the home of port wine. And of course the final championship decider will be in Macau, our 3rd street race of the championship. So all sorts of new challenges for the drivers, and with the series ending in Europe in Monza instead of starting there and starting in Valencia, or Zandvoort and then Valencia instead of ending in Valencia. All sorts of different aspects of various cars' performance will be reflected at different times during the year as well. So, David, I think that the format of the last 2 series, certainly as far as the teams and drivers are concerned, and from our viewpoint as fans, I think we're certainly going to be looking at again another really exciting World Touring Car Championship. More races, longer races, and some street circuits to take the racing to the fans in Europe as well. I think will be very warmly received.
We've seen just how good it is, the street racing, when you go to Macau, the very last round of the championship for the last couple of years, and to have those extra 2 street races, one at Po and one at Porto. You know, that really shows the drivers that are good, because you have to be fast, but you've got to be really, really accurate. You can't make a mistake, you can't run over a curb, because right beside the curb will be an Amoco barrier, and that's what does damage to cars. That means you're not going to finish. So we see that on a regular basis when we go to Macau. So many cars hitting the barriers and struggling. So 2 more races like that, one at Pau for France and one at Porto for Portugal, will liven up even more this World Championship, if that's even possible.
Augusto Farfus, you started from P6 and you took the lead after lap 2. How did you do that?
We did some change on the car before the second race. I had a very good feeling with my engineer since the beginning, and we just did some changes, and fortunately it was fantastic. I was just managing all the race, so I just have to say thanks for all BMW employers, all team. This victory is also a BMW victory.
When you took the lead, did you get something from the great atmosphere in the stands in your car?
No, I was just concentrating to do my best. I was not pushing so hard. I was just managed by the mirrors. How was the race behind of me? When I saw Andy was second, I just pushed a little bit. Then I saw that my gap was very easy to keep it till the end, and I just drive in the best way as possible.
Thank you.
Well, we're going to have to get used to the sight of Bavarian mechanics waving Brazilian flags, it would seem. It just sort of occurred to me, I can't think the last time a non-German driver drove for Schnitzer, certainly not in touring cars. We have to go back to the American Le Mans Series running the BMW V12 LM Roadsters when they had Bill Auberlen aboard.
Podium again. How was this possible after the great performance in race 1?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's difficult to go from 8th or 7th on the grid to near the front, but you know, we drove a really good race. I feel it's a tough race for me. Had to overtake 3 or 4 cars and defend Jorg heavily the whole race, and you know, this has been a tough weekend for me, but an extremely good one, and hopefully on my good days I can be better than I was today.
Your fight with Jorg was again very, very, very close. How did you keep out of trouble?
Well, Jorg's very fair, and we drove sensibly, and I had to defend heavily, but he drove in a fair way. Our ultimate goal is to win BMW, the Manufacturers' Championship, first, so we all drove accordingly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, as Prio said, it's been a pretty tough weekend. The car's never right been where they wanted it to be, but he again seems to manage to race a car at the front, even if it doesn't actually really want to be there all the time.
That's what's good about Andy. He's very positive in his mind. You know, he works very hard with that side of his life to make sure his racing is good, and he is positive all the time, and that positive gets him the results.
WTCC 2007, we have 3 BMW drivers with 16 points in the lead of the World Championship. How was this possible?
Well, I think we had the better package this weekend. It showed that that our test program in the winter was very good, and our cars are very competitive. So I was a little bit surprised about the Seat, because they let us by like police go by, so there was no fight at all. I hope there's nothing political coming now. That was a little bit strange, but for the rest I had a very good car, and I was fighting Andy for the second place. But you want to stay fair, and you don't want to push a BMW off the circuit, so I stayed third. I'm happy.
The next round is in Zandvoort, the first time for the WTCC. What do you expect for BMW there?
Well, difficult to say. I mean, we tested in Zandvoort also with the Seats and together with Chevrolet, but always on different days. Lap time wise, we all did the same lap time, so I think it's going to be a very competitive race.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think, David, now these cars are at the sort of stage of development where it's unlikely that anybody is going to have a huge advantage anywhere. I think the days where you had a big power advantage or something else have long since gone. So that pretty much brings us to the end of things here in Brazil. Just an official look at or unofficial look at the result. Augusto Farfus from Andy Prio, Jörg Müller, all BMW top 3. Ivan Muller and Tarquini. Now, there's a question. Was there a degree of it's pretty much inevitable, let's just let them go and make it look as though we're really suffering? I think it's a little bit hard really for race drivers to actually bring themselves to do that. You can argue about it later, but doing it on the track, I think they'll have done everything in their power to keep the BMWs behind.
A race driver doesn't give up. He doesn't simply say, there you are, take the place away, as Jürgen Müller was suggesting. They were racing flat out, but they knew they were beaten hands down this weekend by BMW. And as you said, with Jaime Puig from Seat very unhappy with the way things are going, and he feels that they have got a bit of a disadvantage. Look at the points there. BMW 36 points, Seat 21. That's 15 points extra in one meeting. That didn't happen last year at all, and Seat will be pushing for that to come back and be more level. But this is only the first race. It may not be like this when we get to Zandvoort. I think we need to wait a little while longer to see how it pans out.
I think so too, particularly as round 3 in Valencia has always been a front-wheel drive circuit. So we'll have to wait and see how the balance of power changes as they get to Europe. But